That, dear people, is how I stay happy. Okay, I don't go around howling all the time, but I'm using howling as an example of catharsis. Catharsis is the process of releasing and thereby providing relief from strong or repressed emotions. I love catharsis. I'm an artist and musician, and I think if I didn't have art and music to process through the difficult things that life brings us, it would all get jumbled up inside of me, and it would fester into a disease, and it would destroy me. I need catharsis to be able to get those things out to process through life. Author and blogger Andrina Marie Brown said, "Things are not getting worse, they're getting uncovered. We must hold each other tight and continue to pull back the veil." Hashtag Black Lives Matter. We live in the age with the advancement of technology. We have access to so much, but we're also exposed to so much. We're exposed to so many more injustices, and it's sometimes hard to know what to do with that. When we see these things, when we are exposed to injustices, it makes us have a hard time to sit still and do nothing. It makes us want to do something, even if it just starts with a howl. Back in 2000, I was exposed to a form of extreme poverty I never realized existed. A man named Tan came to our church and showed videos and photos and told stories of people that he'd met in Delhi, India. Tan and his team found people living under bridges and in horrific conditions, many people half dead, with others just walking right past. These were the poorest of the poor, the destitutes. Tan and his team would pick these people up and bring them to a place they started called the Rescue Center. The Rescue Center they started to be able to treat the urgent care needs of the people in this neighborhood. And sometimes they were very urgent. From people with missing hands to people with missing toes, many people with multi-drug resistant tuberculosis because they weren't able to get the treatment they needed. At the rescue center, they were bathed and their wounds were bandaged, and they were taken to hospitals. Now, the hospitals at that time in Delhi, if you were strong enough to get yourself into the hospital, sometimes there would be a long line to get in. And if you were to get admitted, if you were all alone, sometimes you would be left untreated. And so Tan and his team would go to the hospitals and work and stay as advocates for the patients to make sure they got the treatment that they needed. And from there, they were taken to the rehabilitation house outside of Delhi, where they could recover and get back into society, many people staying to help the work go on. When I met Tan, I happened to be going to India, and so he said, "Why don't you come visit and see our work?" And so I went, and my mind was blown. My world was rocked. I couldn't believe the things that I saw, and the people that I met, and the stories that I heard. And so when I came back to the States, I needed to process through this. And so I made paintings and I wrote songs. I made paintings to try to tell the stories somehow, to try to show the value of the people and their beauty. And I tried to work through this clash of cultures, this clash of the haves and the have-nots, this clash against one of my core beliefs, and that is that we are all 100% equally valuable and worthy of love. And so I worked on these paintings and I wrote songs, but it just didn't feel like it was enough. I wanted to do more. And so I decided to move to India, and I decided I would stay for 2 to 5 years. So having studied art, I didn't have a clue about patient care, so I got a job at a hospital, and I tried to teach myself Hindi. And finally, in 2002, I was back in Delhi. The second time around, however, was much more challenging. I was given a lot of responsibility. We started a home for women, a rehabilitation home. I would often go and stay in the hospital with patients overnight. I drove our ambulance through the crazy Delhi traffic and heat. And at some point, some staff members left, and I found myself in charge of the home we had for children with disabilities. And so after about 4 or 5 months, I started feeling very worn out. I tried to go to my room and shut the door and say, I need to play the guitar, I need to play some music, I need to paint. But it all just felt so trite, knowing that right outside my door, people were in life or death situations. And so I had a hard time setting my boundaries, and I had a hard time saying no. And so after 6 months, I met with the leaders, and they saw that I was clearly burnt out. And we decided to cut my commitment short. And so after a total of 7 months, I found myself back in the States, completely heartbroken. My heart was in India with the treasures of people being forgotten. I needed, at this point, I needed catharsis. I needed to work through everything that I experienced and my disappointment and my sadness and the experiences that I had there. I needed to paint and I needed to write songs because that's what I do. And so I worked specifically on a series of paintings to be able to get out and process through a specifically traumatic event that I encountered. When I was in India, I found matchboxes on the sides of the roads, and I liked them. I liked these little objects. I liked the images on them, and so I collected them. And so when I came back to the States, I worked on a series that fit into these matchboxes. And it's a story I'd like to share with you. So I was at the children's home one day when we heard a horrible, blood-curdling scream. It was coming from our neighbor's house. We ran over and we broke open the gates and stood there realizing we were eyewitnesses to a bride burning. A bride burning, also known as a dowry death, can happen sometimes in India. Sometimes in arranged marriages, the bride's family has to pay a dowry or a payment to the groom's family. And sometimes, if that payment's not made, the bride's life can be threatened, and sometimes she's murdered. And sometimes that happens by pouring kerosene on her and lighting her on fire. And then later, it tries to get covered up as a suicide or a cooking accident. And that's what we came upon. When we opened the gates, she had just doused herself in water. I saw in the grass footsteps where the grass was burned. We took her in a rickshaw and brought her to a clinic down the road. From there, she was taken to a hospital in Delhi. I went to this hospital to try to find her, but I didn't find her. Instead, I found a burn unit filled with women. When this happened, some neighbors down the road from the slum, they also saw what happened, including a child. And I'm told that this family was paid to move away, to keep it covered. I'm told that the police were paid off to stay quiet. Working on these matchbox paintings helped me to be able to process through this, but it also helped to be able to uncover things that are happening to women in India. According to the National Crime Statistic, in 2012, over 18,000 bride burnings happened across India. That's a bride burning every 90 minutes. We can't find a solution until we first admit there's a problem. And it feels like the horrors of all this, not just this of so much happening in the world, they never seem to cease, right? I mean, sometimes it feels like the world's going to implode with all that's happening, be it suicide bombers or shootings, be it Paris, Munich, Falcon Heights, Orlando, Istanbul, be it sex trafficking, child abuse, sexism, racism, the list goes on, and we need to know what to do with this. And I believe it's so important, especially as it relates to our own personal injustices, the things that have been done against us, the things that we have seen. I believe it's so important to get those out. When I came back to the States, I moved to North Minneapolis, and North Minneapolis is known for having a little more crime than most of the city. And our neighbor had a dog, and this dog was purely a watchdog. The dog was just there to scare people away, and it barked and howled all the time. And I felt bad for the dog, so I went over, and I was like, "Hey, can I take your dog for a walk?" And they said, "No, don't worry about him, he's fine." And so the dog came to symbolize the images that were still going through my head of what I'd seen in India and couldn't do anything then. Being exposed to injustices is hard because it makes us feel powerless and helpless. And so I wrote a song. I wrote a song called The World Howls. And I'd like to play that for you tonight. I believe that part of this pulling back the veil, that's where catharsis can start. That's part of finding a solution. And so tonight, I want to invite you to some communal catharsis. I want to invite you tonight, while we're playing this song, to howl like a dog. And I want to invite you, and I would love it if you would howl for the whole song. Maybe there's some things that are stirring inside of you, and you need to get them out. Now is the time together. We're going to do that. We must hold each other tight and continue to pull back the veil. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. I wanna walk the neighbor's dog, 'cause he's all chained up, he's all chained up, he's crying. I wanna walk the neighbor's dog. Come on, let me hear you howl. But he's all chained up, he's constantly chained up, he's howling. Ow! I wanna see the neighbor's dog set free, set free. But it doesn't have to be me. You got a solution that needs a problem.
Well, I got a problem that needs a solution. Don't wanna be in the problem, I wanna be in the solution. And I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Oh, I want you to be let go, to be set free, to be set free. Oh, I want you to be let go, to be set free, to be set free. I wanna walk the neighbor's door, 'cause he keeps howling, they keep howling, the world is howling right next door. Oh, the world is howling, the world is howling, the world is howling right next door. The world is howling, the world is howling, the world is howling right next door. Oh, I want you to be let go, to be set free, to be set free. Oh, I want you to be let go, to be set free, to be set free.
Dankeschön.